what I'm arguing about and have argued about with Shermer and Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins and Joe Rogan is that their philosophies are based on something called naive realism. Naive realism dominates all of scientific dialogue. So even Einstein was a naive realist. And what is naive realism means? Naive realism is based on the notion that the physical world exists exactly as it is perceived by the five human senses, even if no one is observing it. So that, on the face of it, that's ridiculous. The physical universe exists as perceived by the five human senses. So what about an insect with 100 eyes? What about a dolphin? What about a bat that experiences the world through the echo of ultrasound? What about bees that navigate through ultraviolet? There is no such thing as a fixed reality. And even idealism is based on the fact that my consciousness is producing the physical universe, which is also totally wrong. So we have to address this basic idea, naive realism. Is there a physical world in the absence of an observer? Now, what we call the physical world is a species-specific observation of human experience as we experience it through the five senses, which is a very narrow bandwidth of perceptual activity. In fact, less than 0.1% of the activity that's available. So there's nothing, the human visual experience is between 300 to 800 nanometers. There's nothing sacred outside of that, apparently, but we cannot experience it, even with our technologies. Our senses tell us the earth is flat. Nobody believes that anymore. Our senses tell us the ground I'm standing on is stationary and it's spinning at dizzying speeds and hurtling through space at thousands of miles an hour. Our senses tell me that the body is physical. We know it's proportionately as void as intergalactic space. So these are all the things that are now being questioned as naive realism. I've been in conversation with Don Hoffman, who's one of the cutting-edge neuroscientists and cognitive scientists of the world. He's written a book called The Case Against Reality. If you give me a little time, I can search out my magazines here. Let me show you something very interesting. Okay, so these are some of the recent issues of New Scientist that are questioning what we call traditional ideas of evolution, that are questioning the flaw at the heart of reality, that are thinking of a fifth force of nature, that are saying that the universe that we believe in is actually not the universe in reality. So the debate is no longer between idealism and physicalism. It is understanding that matter is a human construct for human perceptual experiences given meaning by human beings. In fact, there is no such thing as a universe. There's no such thing as a physical body. There's no such thing as matter. These are convenient, magical lies that make experience possible and allow us to upgrade our illusion of what we call reality. And, as far as Dawkins, Sam Harris, I've given up on them. But with Shermer, we are having a very good conversation. And, he's now at least having a civil dialogue with me on the fact that we need to question everything we know about reality.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a skeptic, that guy. I really like that. Just questioning everything down to the foundations. I was, when you talk about, that the universe is really, what we see as the universe is really just our perceptions. I love that because it also kind of makes me realize that like everything that I see here in front of me, this computer, your face on the screen, all what I feel.
And your own body, and your own body, and your own brain.
And my own body. It's all within consciousness.
Yeah. So I've been speaking about this forever, but now because Gabriella is part of our team, this is very practical. We cultivate presence. That's it.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. That's a great way to bring it into presence and reality and into the human experience. Before we go back to the human experience, Megan, I know you have some questions. I wanted to just ask one thing. So what if if this is all in here, if this experience is all in here, what would happen? What would the universe?
No, it's not in here. This is in that.
Right,
Even
right. In
this is in
consciousness.
consciousness.
In
Okay,
consciousness. If it's
the
all in
brain and
consciousness.
body are also in consciousness.
So
when we say in here, we are again resorting to naive realism.
So would the consciousness still be there and still be experiencing the universe if there were no conscious beings like humans and ants and cats and dogs and stuff?
Good question.
Consciousness is inherently independent of the instruments it uses to have perceptual experience. So consciousness independent of body, mind, and its experiences because it's free. And being free, it's always infinite possibilities, and it can morph itself into any experience. In fact, right now, we are morphing from the formless into this experience right this moment.
Wow.
So death is also a human construct based on false identity.
Wow. And so that universal consciousness that transcends and is independent of all these vessels, I guess maybe that's what people call God. I don't know, what everybody has different definitions of things, but I think that's a very powerful thing. The universe consciousness.
Yeah, but you know, as soon as you say God, people have an image. So if you have an image about God, then it's not God. If you can define God, it's not God. Yeah. God is the presence that Gabriella was speaking about.
Yeah, you know, I grew up in a Jewish tradition. I actually went to rabbinical school. It's a long story. And one of the things in like the ancient Torah is that Abraham had destroyed the idols, you know, these idols of God, the representations of God, and you're not supposed to make a representation of God. And I think that there's this ancient wisdom there in that tradition as well, where they realize that as soon as you make a representation of God, you've defined it, and then you've lost it.
Yeah, but again, for humans, it's very important to have symbolic representations of the divine, because the divine ultimately as formless is inconceivable. So yes, those are symbols. The gods and goddesses and the divinities in all religions are symbolic representations of the infinite, which is otherwise incomprehensible.
Yeah, wow.